Okay, so here I am back again, and the last thing I was working on was the jump because it seemed that when Peabody jumped up in the air, when he landed, there was a delay before the landing animation. So I was playing around with it. I'm going to show you what I have as my solution right now. So here we go. I play the game. I jump up, and when I land now, it's more in time. So when I was playing around with it, basically I took these two things here. First thing I did was I made sure that to go from jump to land, that there is no exit time. And then in land, what I had to do was shrink down this transfer time between the two to a minimal amount of time. So with the time like this, the jump looks like this, okay? And then if the time was like this, the jump still looks like that, but it's this part here that was messing me up. It just have a stall before the landing, and the bigger that time was, the worse the stall would be before the land animation seemed to play. So I got it to smooth down by just shrinking this to the minimum, and I wonder what happens here. Let's see. There, it's not even playing, so I have to make sure I get the land in there at the end. And that's looking better for the jump. So now another one thing I want to do is when I land for the jump, I want there to be like a stomp, like some kind of like little particles that puff out to emphasize the landing from when I land. So I'm gonna have to go back into my scene over here and I'm gonna have to work on a particle effect. So let's just add a blank game object for that. And I'll call this like the stomp. Oops, no. I'll call this a stomp. And then to the stomp empty game object, let me just zero it out for position wise. Let's see where it went, right there in the middle of the screen. And now I'm just going to add a particle effect, which is in miscellaneous, I believe. Maybe it's not in miscellaneous. It's in effects, particle effect. Here's particle system. So there we go. I have particle system there, and particles are pretty big, and they're pink, but you can assign a texture there to the particles. And where you do that is, let's see, in the renderer, a material I could pick. It's the default material. And with that default material, I could also set the start color. So let's see. Mr. Peabody seems to be a shade of pink. So let's make his stomp pink, or should I make it the color of grass? I think I'll make it pink. Darker there. And then the size of these particles, let's shrink it down a little bit. So I think that's where's the start size? Right here is a 1. Let me just drag this down, get it to something smaller. I just want to see Mr. Peabody and the particle effect together. So let me just bring that particle effect for now, like right down here around where his feet are. Just help me see it better. Select it. Okay. So basically, it's not going to be something that continuously emits, but first let's get the shape of the emission correct, because right now it's kind of like coming out from a cone shape. Let's see, what else do we have? Do we have hemisphere? What is that like? No, that's not what I want. A sphere? No. A sprite? Seems to just originate from the spot. Uh, Mesh? I don't have any 3D mesh here. How about an edge? Edge. No. Um, Maybe I stick with cone, but it's going all over the place. I want to like a puff that goes out to the sides. Um, let's change the size of the cone or the angle. Okay, that's bigger. That's smaller. It should move slower. Then there's the inner radius. It's a little bit hard to control like that, so I'll put in 0.3 maybe. And let's just see it like coming from here, from the foot. So there's definitely too much particles coming out. So what I want to do is, let's see, gravity modifier. Okay, if I start giving it some gravity, then the particles kind of come down instead of flying up. All right, and I think, let me just see, why can't I see my guy in the game window? There it is. So I can see both views without those things. And I think the main effect here is going to be controlled with this emission thing. So I don't want it to continuously emit. I just want it to have a burst emission. So right here, I'm going to add a burst emission for the land, like that maybe. And it'll happen one time. You see here, it's just replaying over and over. Now it's moving slow. It looks like it's going in slow motion. So let's increase the speed. Okay, let's increase the speed, double it. And now it's going out way too far. Let me put it down to a 1. And let's see it play. I think the reason it's taking that long is because of this here, the duration. So I could just put that down to 2, just so I could see it happen. And let's increase the gravity a little bit more. I guess it could last longer. 3. The lifetime, that's what it is. The lifetime has to increase. All right. And then we have some kind of effect playing there. Play on awake, that sounds right. Here's my burst. And I guess I could say how many. I can increase the burst. I can have more particles come out to 50. And maybe I can mix in, yeah. See, I want to keep it the color he is, because if I'm on the green grass, then I'll puff green. If I'm on the dirt, I'll puff the dirt color. And right now it's more complicated than I want to do. But I guess I can make the particles slowly disappear. Like most of them are falling off the screen. Let's see if we could do that. What effect here do we control? Velocity over lifetime, color over lifetime, size over lifetime. Maybe we could play with this one, that over the lifetime, the size gets smaller. So now it's checked on and the size is getting larger over lifetime. So let's pick one of these graphs here where instead it gets smaller. So they start at, and then they get smaller, helps it look like they're disappearing. And how about this one where it's a curve? Yeah, I'll do the curve one. And let's say that that's our particle effect. I still want it to move faster, to look like more like a stomp. It looks like it's an underwater stomp to me right now. So trying to see any place where I could control the speed. This is the shape. The radius, that's the emission shape. And I have it as a cone. And then over here I have the gravity modifier. Let me play around with this a little bit, see how that looks. It almost looked like electrical sparks, you know? But right now I just want something I could do the game with, that I could start, working on the game with. So what was the speed? Start speed is 10. That really increased. Oh, if I go faster. Hmm. Yeah, and I'm doing that. The thing gets bigger. I guess because over the time it could travel further. So let's say I'll put it like this. And there's a simulation speed that maybe I could play with that. Oh, that's better. All right, so say I got that. Let me put the gravity back up so it could spark up a little bit more higher. All right, so let's say that for now, that's my landing animation. All right, the stomp. So let me go back up to the assets top level and let me drag and drop this stomp as an effect that I'm going to save here. Boom. And I think the only thing I want is the position offset to be 0. Okay, so when I use it on an object, and then for Mr. Peabody, let me take out that stomp effect right there. For Mr. Peabody, I want there to be able to play a stomp when he lands. So I'm going to have to give another variable here so I could define the stomp. So here I have my 3 public. I'm going to add another public game object stomp. Okay. And now I could tell the script to use that. So here's Mr. Peabody. It's reading the script here. And there you go. So now I'm going to give the stomp as the effect that I'm going to play. Now that this is given to the script, I have to see when do I play it. So it's going to be definitely when I land over here. So here I land. And then here I want to instantiate the stomp object. So just say instantiate. And what's the prefab? It's the stomp. And where do I want to instantiate it? Right where he landed. So I'm going to say stomp. That gives us that makes a stomp object here in the hierarchy window, so it appears in the scene. And I just want a reference to it so I could control some stuff about it. Let's make that variable. Hold on, I'll come back to this line of code in a minute. Up here, this scheme object is really a prefab, so I'll say prefab stomp. Okay, that clarifies more like the real type object it is. So here I'm waiting for this to update unless there was an error. Yeah, there is an error. So the code didn't compile because this was here still. Let me take that out. And the code should compile. And then after it compiles, I should change the prefab stomp. And I have to give it the name again since it's a different variable. All right, save that. Boom. Come back over here. So prefab stomp. And then I'll just call this thing game object stomp equals instantiate prefab stomp. Did I spell that right? No. Prefab stomp. And then I'll tell it where to go. Stomp dot transform dot position equals this dot position. Now I think with this, this dot transform dot position. I'm probably gonna have a problem where the position has to be exactly like where his feet are. Because this dot position of my Mr. Peabody, his position is like up here in the middle of his body. That's not where I want the stomp to come out. So, let's see, Mr. Peabody. Let's see. I'm going to give a child object. It's going to be an empty, and this would be the point of the stomp effect. The point of the stomp effect. Let's call it that long name so we don't get confused. And I will just give it an icon so I could see it. Let's make it yellow. Oh no, let's make it green. And now I'll take that icon. I have that selected. I can take that icon and move it where I want the stomp effect to actually happen, like right there when I'm touching the ground. All right, so file save. So there's Mr. Peabody. There's the point stomp effect. So over here, when I land, it's going to equal this dot. I'll come back to this line again, this little error. I need to hold that position here. Private void, no private game object, or actually I just want the transform of it. Private transform form point stomp effect equals null. And you know what, I said private, but I'm going to make it public. It just makes it easier for me to assign the value to it. Cut, put it up here, paste. Now I have another public variable. Let's save the script, go back over here, and will it compile? It's not going to compile because I have that error there. So I start typing this line, but the line that I am typing is this transform position is where I want my stomp effect to come up. So I'm going to copy and that dot position, it's already a transform, so that the stomp effect comes to life right at that position. And now let me go back over here and select Mr. Peabody after the script reads. And here, now I could just give it that position right here. Boom. And save it. So now when I jump, when I land, it should play that stomp effect. Let's see. So press play, jump up, jump up. Oh, it's playing more than once. Let's take a look at the prefab for stomp again. Something is going on. I didn't want it to loop. So here's a stomp effect, and it has looping on. Let me turn that off. Okay, and now let's press play. Jump up, jump up, jump up, and that just gives a little bit more effects there, you know. What the heck happened? Now he's not playing his little footsie animation. Something's breaking, something's breaking. I get one thing working and then something else breaks. And the footsie animation is not playing. I didn't do anything there. And Mr. Peabody, does he still have his animator controller? Let me just check to see why it's not playing. Yeah, he does. And on the animations, here's idle. He wasn't playing his idle animation either for some reason, right? Here's jump. All right, the animations are still there. What's up in the animator? I think I got a problem here. Yeah, because here the land animation played, and then I took away anything going back to some animation to play. I think that's what happened. I was playing around with that. Make transition back to idle after you land. Okay, so let's just do that. File, save. That's why I think the animation stopped playing. I broke that loop. So now if I press play, he's running, jump, he's running. Yeah, there we go. That's why I lost the animation for that. All right, so the next thing I wanted to do today was, let's see, he picks up the gun, and like when his head is moving up and down, the gun is there. I guess you could think it's like his hand. But when he did jump up, the gun looks like it's dropping to his feet, and I want the gun to stay where his head is. So maybe I could use the same trick that I did with the effect for landing, the stomp effect, where I put this point, and I could add another point for where the a position to spawn, you know, that the gun is a child of. So I could attach it to one of the bones. This is the root bone. And over here, if I just make another, if I make it a child of the root bone, then when the root bone goes up and down, then the gun will go up and down. Instead of attaching the gun to Mr. Peabody, I could attach it to the root. So let's look at the part where we pick up the gun and attach it to ourselves. So here's the function from Mr. Peabody called pickup weapon. And here I set it to be Right, a child of Mr. Peabody himself. So instead of setting it to be a child of Mr. Peabody, I want to set it to be a child of the root. So probably the easiest way for me to do this is the way I kind of assign the points here in my inspector window. I'll make another public variable for that. It's the easiest way, I think. So I'll say public transform root. I'll call it transform root equals null. Okay, save it. Come back over here. Reads the script. Should come up as another variable I could give. All right, so I'll take the root and that'll tell it the transformation of where the root is. And now in the code, I come down to here and more specifically, it will be a child. The position transform will be a child of the root when he picks up the gun. And maybe that'll help. Let's see what happens. And save everything and come back and press play. Okay, it's reading the script and press play. All right, so here we go. We're jumping, we land, have a little effect. We didn't even add sound yet, so I'm just making it with my mouth. Sorry. And here we go. I'm gonna pick up the gun, and the gun is upside down. Uh, So the gun's upside down. And why is that? It's probably has to do with the angle of the root. When I shoot, what happens? Yeah, so everything's rotated 90 degrees off. So what do we do about that? Whew. Okay, I guess that's 90 degrees off. I could account for it in the script, transform root, and then I could just transform the gun. Can I do that? I guess no, I like to do things here in the designer better. I'll take the root and I'll add another empty instead. And here I'll just say this is the point for the weapon. Okay, that's a child of root. And just point for the weapon, and I'll just add another thing so I could see it. Make it blue. And now I'll just move it into place. The point for the weapon. Say it's like right here. Okay, so there you go. And it's a child of the root, so when it moves up and down, that point will move up and down. And this point is, rotated 0, 0, 0. So now for Mr. Peabody, here I said transform root. Maybe I'll just change the name of that more specifically to, this is point stomp effect, and I'll just call this one point weapon. Oh, I should show you a trick here. When you rename stuff, let me just undo this. You could do something in Visual Studio. You could right click, rename, like this, and then start typing the new name. And then I'll look through the code and update the name everywhere. So point weapon. Okay, so right there, it changed. And where else is point weapon? It's right here, point weapon. That changed. All right, so let's see if that worked in the script too. Up here at this level, I think when the name changes, you have to redefine. Yep. So now it's point weapon. So now I'll take that point weapon and tell it that's where that weapon point is. File save. And let's just look at the point here in the scene window so we can see the object. See how the point's going up and down with the object there? That's good. And then if I jump, I'm going off the screen a little, but if I jump, yeah, the point looks like it's staying with it. Now let's just go down to the gun, pick it up, and see how that looks. So, oh man, it's still backwards. But now, to make it proper, like turn around the proper way, I could just do it with the transform of my point weapon. So the game's in play right now, but I'm going to just test this out. Is it? It's not the X. I think it's the Z. So let's focus in on Mr. Peabody here. I think it's the Z. Um, okay, click on the point weapon. And if I rotate the point weapon here, yeah, so minus 90 degrees. There you go, that's holstered. And jumping and shooting, then it cocks back up. All right, so I think we fixed that because when I jump, yeah, the gun kind of stays like where his imaginary hands are. And there, we worked on two things today for the game. What did I say I was working on in the beginning? Oh yeah, the jump animation when it was landing, it was like, hesitating to play the land animation. So today we jump, we land, and just added for extra stuff, we added that landing has like a splash, you know, just helps show like the impact of the jump. And then I also fixed the gun like sticking around to his body when he jumps up. Okay, and let me see something. I could kind of almost double jump, but not that much. No, I guess I could stay in the air. I could just cheat the whole game through. Maybe next time we'll work on that, like fixing this double jumping action here from being able to fly. I know some people are like, I like flying. Anyway, so that's that for this episode. So next episode, I guess we will work on. He picked up the gun. He jumps. I don't know what we'll work on. Let's see what tickles my fancy. I was thinking maybe, I had this effect here for when he lands that there's the splash. So maybe next episode I'll work on something that when you're moving, we could actually like see grass shake or something like that. So I think that's what we'll do next time. See you next time.